As a PhD student or postdoc in STEM fields, one of the many common career paths you are likely to be interested in is the tenure track faculty pathway. If you have only ever considered this pathway as your next professional step, then I would encourage you to explore some of the expanded career paths that value a PhD to make sure that you've identified the best career path for your skills, interests, values, and personal life realities. I'll talk about one way to do this in this video. If you are currently committed to applying for faculty jobs as one of your possible career paths, then this video will provide an overview of what this process looks like, what you should be doing along the way, and what resources are available to you to make the most of your application. We'll cover these topics during this video so that you have a good foundation to continue engaging with advisors from career services, faculty, and staff from other student services on campus to prepare for this process. I'll be moving quickly through this video, and you're welcome to watch it all at once and return to it as necessary. I will also provide a few points where you can pause and ponder a question or two that I'll be asking. It is actually really helpful to answer some of these questions out loud so that you can actually hear your own answers. This will be helpful as you begin to think about some of the questions you have about where to focus your efforts as part of the job search process. Of course, if you're in a public situation, I can see why answering out loud won't seem like a good idea. But if you do have the time and space to respond, then you'll find that coming up with and verbalizing your answer will help you engage in the process much more effectively. This video isn't designed to answer all the questions you are likely to have, because one of the goals with providing these videos is to encourage you to make an appointment with one of the advisors on the graduate student postdoc team at Career Services. This is my team, and we're excited to meet with you. You all have unique backgrounds, experiences, and research areas, and so you will all have unique career questions and goals. You'll find our one-on-one sessions to be the most helpful resource we can provide. Now, if you happen to have a quick emailable question about anything that I'm covering in this video, and if you're a Penn student, postdoc, or alum with an active Handshake account, then you're welcome to email me directly. Just use this as your subject line, and I'll respond with an answer, and with additional encouragement to schedule an appointment with us as well. Okay, we're going to be looking at the process of applying to faculty jobs in this video. And for many of you, this involves several very active, immediate steps in terms of writing your application materials, going on interviews, whether those are virtual or in person, presenting your work in a job talk or doing a teaching demonstration, or both, and then hopefully receiving an offer and being able to negotiate. If you get an offer, negotiate, and then accept it, the tenure track process continues on. There is the first 6 months that are oftentimes very hectic as you work on establishing your research that needs to take you through the next 6 or more years, in addition to new courses that you may be expected to teach. After the first 6 to 12 months, faculty tell us that you'll get into a better rhythm and that everything becomes a little bit more manageable. If you pass your 3-year tenure review and impress the 6-year committee that your research, teaching, service, and general scholarship is excellent, then you get tenure, become an associate professor in many cases, and get a much fancier seat at the faculty table on campus. Beyond this lies the ultimate goal of becoming a full professor, and the additional administrative and committee duties that are often associated with this. And look, you managed to do all this at a single change of clothes. Not bad. We are actually going to start at the end of this process for this video, because in order to position yourself as an ideal candidate for a faculty job, you have to create a very clear narrative about why you want this job and what you will bring to this role at different types of institutions. So we can start with the simple career exploration question. Is this what you want? Go ahead and verbalize your answer, which I suspect will be something along the lines of, yes, of course. And so my next question is slightly harder. Why do you want to be a professor? If you can, pause for a moment and answer this question. There is no right or wrong answer to this, but here are some common responses. You probably have more to add to this list. As you position yourself to be effective in your faculty application process, consider doing a self-assessment of your skills, interests, and values to create a more comprehensive list that not only highlights what you want from the role, but that also identifies what you can bring to this role. How do your experiences, your knowledge, your research and teaching skills bring value to a department or institution? You can start here by setting up a free MyIDP account and using this to perform a self-assessment. You will see that this gives you some additional insights into your skills, interests, and values, and this can make it easier for you to identify the value that you bring to a faculty role that can become part of your application narrative. Once you've completed these assessments, schedule an appointment here at Career Services to talk about the results, what you took away from them, and how they may be helpful to your future faculty applications. This self-assessment is also important because it can begin to help you answer this next question. If you had a choice of institutions where you could be a faculty member, what type would you choose and why? Pause, reflect, and go ahead and answer this question. Coming from Penn, many of you will likely say that your goal is an R1 institution where research is the priority. Some of you will want to be at a more undergraduate-focused, liberal arts institution where your combination of research and teaching and service skills are valued more highly as a combined set of skills. For some of you, you may not know how these institutions differ or what particular skills and experiences are most valued, and now is a great time to get answers to your questions about this. It is important to understand the landscape of higher education institutions and how they differ, their hiring trends, where your skills will be most valued, and where your values are most likely to be fulfilled. So, while becoming a full professor might be something that happens 7 to 10 years in the future, starting a new faculty role as an assistant professor might be something that could happen in the next 1 to 3 years. I mentioned that the first year as a faculty member can be challenging, and so it's important to ask yourself whether you have developed the skills necessary to be successful. Future search committees will be evaluating your ability to overcome the common challenges of establishing your research and convincing the search committee that your future research is distinct from your PIs, developing effective teaching approaches, or combining your research and teaching to effectively serve students. So if these are the types of questions you still have, we can now talk about some of the strategies to answer them, and one of the most helpful ones will be effective networking. For our purposes today, we can simply define networking as chatting with people who have experience doing the things that you want to do in the types of places you might like to do them. So this means, for example, Penn PhD alumni who are faculty members in a wide range of academic institutions who can give you insight into the challenges you may face, the best practices they use to overcome them, and the differences between the types of institutions they work at. This type of one-on-one networking is one of the best investments of your time as you position yourself for faculty careers. And if you haven't taken the opportunity to connect with alumni, then this can be a great action item to take next, and will provide you with a wealth of information you can immediately use as you are writing cover letters, updating your CV, creating research statements, teaching philosophies, and diversity statements. You can learn more about this process by reading our guide on informational interviewing, and by scheduling an appointment with an advisor at Career Services to learn about how to make the most of these interactions. And finding people to reach out to couldn't be easier using a tool like LinkedIn, because the keyword professor is almost exclusively connected to faculty roles in higher education, at least in the US. And so by using this keyword, we can find almost 17,000 Penn alumni who are faculty members, and almost 4,000 of these are in the greater Philadelphia region. And LinkedIn does a great job showing you how you may be connected to these alumni, and who you might know who could make an introduction to them on your behalf. Don't let anyone tell you that faculty never use LinkedIn. It's a perfectly good tool for most career fields and industries. Some of you may be eager to jump straight into writing your application materials, and we'll be covering this in just a moment, but I encourage you to take your time to understand yourself and your career goals, and to reach out and connect with others, as this will build a very strong foundation to your applications. Obviously, this year and possibly next year are going to look and feel a little different in terms of faculty hiring trends, and it's worth thinking about some of the possible consequences of the pandemic when it comes to the academic job search. This is just a selection of possible differences for the next couple of years. Overcoming some of these will involve you making sure that you can really communicate the value that your research and teaching bring to an institution and to their students. Now let's take a quick tour through the application materials you'll need for a faculty job search, and some of the resources that you can be using to help you. These are the main documents that you can be working on that are relevant to most faculty applications you'll be making. The CV addresses every aspect of your experience, and so connects to each of these other documents. Many research-focused institutions will ask for publications or chapters, depending on your field. Research statements typically address your past, current, and future research goals. Your teaching philosophy helps the reader understand how you teach and why, and the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement is commonplace in almost all job descriptions these days. The last document is the cover letter, which again draws information from all these elements and tries to showcase the best of what you can do as a way to get the reader interested and excited enough about your candidacy to really want to read all of these other documents carefully. Faculty applications can often be super long. So here's a question for you. Which of these documents can and should be customized for each application that you make? If you can, pause and answer this question. And the answer is, well, it depends on who you talk to be honest. However, the more you adapt your content, your tone, your emphasis, or your focus to align with what you have learned about the types of institutions you're applying to, the more likely your materials are to resonate with your readers. This doesn't mean changing the nature of your future research or the foundation of your teaching philosophy to fit a specific university, but it may mean talking about your future research plans in slightly different ways, or highlighting aspects of your teaching a little differently. While the cover letter is the easiest document to create a customized narrative with, each of these documents can be adapted in subtle but important ways if you want to do so. You definitely should not send exactly the same set of documents with just the name of the university change for each application that you make. This really won't be in your best interest. Karen Kelsky, who wrote the Professor Is In book, provides some discussion of how much she recommends customizing these materials in both her book and on her blog, and you'll definitely hear different responses to this question. While we're talking about Karen Kelsky, you can access 3 hours of her webinars for free by taking advantage of Penn's subscription to the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity. Go ahead and activate your account after selecting the University of Pennsylvania, and you will be able to navigate to her 3-part series on navigating the academic job market. This will provide great additional insight for you. The CV is your one-stop shop for all of your scholarly experiences. Here are the main sections you can consider in your CV. There are discipline-specific approaches to the way information in these sections might be presented, but there's also some flexibility in terms of how you want to present yourself to a search committee. This is a 2-dimensional version of yourself, and so you should feel confident that it accurately expresses your scholarly and professional identity. Don't just look at your advisor's CV and copy the style they use. Your advisor isn't currently looking for a job, and so all they're doing is collecting information and storing it in their CV, not curating it to make a meaningful narrative about scholarly contributions that would be relevant and tailored to a specific audience looking to be impressed and excited by their work. For examples of how students and postdocs have arranged their CVs to communicate their scholarly abilities, take a look at some of the samples on the Career Services website. Some of these may give you a few ideas for how you want to format your materials and what type of content is helpful. Many institutions will ask for some research-related document in many academic disciplines. It can be called any of these, and each is slightly different. Institutions that provide a specific page limit are great because it takes the guessing out of trying to figure out what they actually want. If they ask for a 1-page research statement, then that's what you should provide. The fact that you may have to provide different styles of documents to match what is being asked for is another reason why having a single set of untailored materials won't be that helpful. In general terms, the research statement provides insight into what you have accomplished with your previous research, why your current research is important and impactful, and what you see as your future research plans that will see you through the next 6 years and tenure. In most cases, around 50% of your statement can be about your past and present research, and about 50% about the research you will be doing moving forward. After all, this is why the search committee will want to hire you, because of the new research you'll be doing, not the work that you've already done. To be successful at showcasing the impact of your research, it is helpful to try to answer these 2 key questions. If you can, pause the video and write out a couple of sentences to answer them. If you have written something down, go ahead and read your answers out loud. Does this sound convincing to you yet? Or do you need to think more about the narratives you can use to get other scholars excited by your research? At research-focused institutions, search committees will want to know that you can successfully lead research that is impactful in your field, without support from other faculty or your current advisor, and they may be looking for some or all of these other factors. Of course, for teaching-focused institutions, they may not even ask you about your research. If they do, this is a wonderful opportunity to show how your research makes you a better, more engaging teacher and mentor. The teaching-focused document requested by search committees can also be called different things, and here are some examples. Getting feedback from the Center for Teaching and Learning as part of creating any of these documents can be very helpful, and so make sure to reach out to advisors there as you're working on your draft. In general terms, you don't actually have to have taught to have a good teaching philosophy. what you have experienced as a student, as a PhD candidate serving as a TA, or watching other faculty teach, and even what you've taken away from informal mentoring can all be experiences that you can leverage as part of your teaching narrative. And while the document may sometimes be called a teaching philosophy, it is important not to let the document become too philosophical. The most interesting versions of these documents are a combination of philosophical ideas and real-life examples you can point to that illustrate these ideas in action. The adage, show, don't tell, is appropriate here. So within this document, your philosophy might be fairly static, but the examples that you can use to illustrate your teaching approaches in action might differ depending on the institution that you're applying to, their students, and their own institutional teaching philosophy. This is another opportunity to customize. As institutions continue to work towards teaching, research, and academic service that promotes diversity, equity, and inclusivity, search committees very commonly ask for a diversity statement, either as a standalone document or as a narrative integrated into the cover letter. A one-page statement is usually a good goal to aim for, and one way to frame your own experiences in these statements is to first look at the diversity pages and initiatives of the institutions that you are applying to. These may give you a sense of what is already valued at the institution, examples of academic programs and initiatives that are already in place, and will help you address how your experiences, perspectives, and training can be successfully integrated into your role as a faculty member. And then finally, we have the cover letter. In general terms, the cover letter highlights the best parts of the research, teaching, and diversity statements into a single cohesive narrative, while at the same time answering the question, why do you want to be a faculty member here, in the final paragraph of the letter. If an institution doesn't ask for the other documents we've just reviewed, then the cover letter needs to work a little harder to showcase your research, teaching, and service experiences, and so leave the reader with a clear picture of you in their mind after reading your letter. If you can predict that a search committee may have questions about your application, then the cover letter can be a place where you convince the committee that this is not a concern. These are examples of the types of questions that could be answered as part of a cover letter. You can find plenty of information and advice about all of these documents on the Career Services website. Take a look at these and then go ahead and schedule an appointment with us. Now let's touch on interviews briefly. Whether virtual or in person, getting an interview invitation from a search committee is a great opportunity to put your various narratives into action about the value that you can bring, and how this aligns with a particular institution's missions and goals. Don't forget that you can schedule a 1-hour mock interview with us at Career Services when you have an interview scheduled, and we're happy to talk about interviewing strategies with you in our general appointments as well. There are many different styles of interviews for academic positions, but most will include some of these elements. And as you position yourself for a successful interview, you'll definitely want to have good answers to these types of questions. Meet with an advisor at Career Services to talk through some of the ideas you have to prepare answers for these. Perhaps the most challenging type of interview scenario that students often face is during one-on-one meetings with faculty members, where the only question the interviewer asks is, "So what can I tell you?" or "Do you have any questions for me?" If you end up just asking 30 minutes worth of questions, you run the risk of not leaving much in the mind of the faculty member about you, since they did all the talking. In this case, you have to master the art of asking a question that promotes an answer that you can then respond to with some information about yourself. This way, you'll leave information about you in their mind that will help them potentially advocate for you as a candidate. Job talks, chalk talks, and teaching demonstrations can be common during interviews. Don't forget to connect with advisors at the Center for Teaching and Learning to get feedback on your teaching demonstrations. And set up some time with faculty and students from your department, and ideally some from other departments too, to make sure that your job talk is polished and makes sense to people in your field and beyond. And finally, the last part of the application process is negotiating any offers you receive. Knowing how and when to do this, especially if you haven't had to negotiate for anything before, can feel a little uncertain. But hearing from others as part of your networking outreach to determine how they approach their negotiations and what advice they would give others can be very helpful. We are also happy to talk about this process with you once you start preparing for your interviews. There are data on faculty salary that can help with part of your negotiation, but there are many other aspects beyond salary that might be more important or equally important that are also worth thinking about. Ideally, the items you negotiate for can help to support your successful progress along the tenure track, and so they can often be framed as being mutually beneficial for you and the institution. Of course, you may not get an offer, especially this year. This can be hard because in many cases there is absolutely nothing you will have done wrong. You won't have made any mistakes, you will have great research experiences, publications, teaching awards, and so on. Sometimes it simply comes down to there being too many great candidates for not enough positions. While this can be very frustrating, the steps you can take throughout your PhD or postdoc to understand the expanded range of career options that also align with your skills, interests, and values will ensure that you have options you can pursue even if you choose not to go back on the job market for another year. We are very happy to talk about this career exploration process. And so we will end where we began, with a focus on combining a healthy dose of career exploration with an effective faculty job search process. Creating a strong network of contacts within and far beyond higher education will be one of the best ways to present yourself as a strong candidate for faculty positions, or as an adaptive professional whose PhD experiences and broad range of transferable skills bring value to roles in other career fields and industries. Please do schedule an appointment with an advisor at Career Services to talk more about any of the topics I've briefly mentioned in this video. You can do this through our Handshake platform, and feel free to email me if you have a quick question that I can answer for you. We look forward to working with you.